Economic Forum, good afternoon. We are coming to the end of the first part will be a great opportunity to have a discussion with the history and the last years of the Philippines very intensively. I would say you are the president who made the Philippines again proud of their country. President Aquino, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Shaw. His Excellency, President U Thien. Let me begin by congratulating Myanmar for successfully hosting this year's World Economic Forum on East Asia. My delegation and I have thoroughly enjoyed our stay here, short and very short though it may be, and it has been a pleasure to witness a new chapter unfolding in Myanmar's history, in which all sectors and groups can participate in improving people's lives. We are encouraged by the notable steps being taken to achieve greater political and economic openness in Myanmar. The dialogues that we must partake in as regards development are long and complex, and I, like most of you, I'm grateful for the opportunity to gather here, share our experiences, and most importantly, learn from the experiences of others. Truly, this is as good an environment as any to come together and flesh out solutions to the challenges that confront the world today. As Professor Schwab has mentioned, the Philippines will be hosting the WEF on East Asia next year in Manila. We are hopeful that we can match the standard set by Myanmar and duplicate their success. In the spirit of enhancing our collective pool of knowledge, perhaps you will allow me to share a short version of what is going on in our country, how we have chosen to address the issue of development. As some of you may know, our administration was voted into office largely because of a vision that resonated with my countrymen. In Filipino, we said, "Kung walang korap, walang mahirap," which translates to, if there is no corruption, there will be no poverty. This is the overarching philosophy that has guided our reforms, our policies, and our social and economic resurgence. And it is in line with this philosophy that we are fostering a business environment in our country that is highly conducive to broad-based growth. Much of what we have done to attract businesses is based on the belief that a sense of justice, of the predictability of outcomes, breeds confidence, which in turn begets prosperity. A level playing field assures potential investors that the foundations for success in the Philippines are new ideas and hard work, as opposed to a direct line to some crooked government official. As more investors find it appealing to set up shop in our shores, more jobs get created, empowering our consumer base, which attracts even more investments and ensures that the cycle of growth and prosperity continues. This is the simple recipe behind the Philippine revival, and we are excited to discuss it more thoroughly with all of you next year, especially since we are accelerating our agenda of social inclusiveness and equitable progress. I am certain that we can learn much from your experiences in this regard. Thus, I am inviting all of you to visit the Philippines to see with your own eyes the transformation that has taken place. I am certain that it will be a memorable experience, especially if you can set aside some time to explore a few of our renowned tourist destinations and see that it is really more fun in the Philippines. For now, I suppose it is back to work for all of us. Rest assured, I, along with the members of my cabinet, will be at our desks, finding even more ways to accelerate our reform efforts so that we can surprise you even more during your visit next year. It has been a productive few days for a lot of us, and I'm hopeful that that as we all depart this beautiful country, the lessons we have shared and learned will endure, and that we can all look forward to following through on the commitments we have made towards building a stronger, more cooperative, and more inclusive world economy. I thank you.
Thank you, President Aquino. Thank you, Mr. President. President Aquino, in the luncheon today, you said you have the recipe for strong, sustained, inclusive growth. Can you describe, just for those who were not at the luncheon, the key elements of the recipe and how they may be applied also to a country like Myanmar?
Well, may we start out with, we believe we possess a lot of natural advantages. No? We have a the right demographic numbers, figures, and personalities. We have a splendid location. We're about 4 hours away from all the major areas in Asia, and it's 4 hours in either direction. We had we had and we have abundant natural resources. You have a very educated populace, although there are questions as to whether or not they're in the right fields. Now, having all of those advantages, the question that really bedeviled a lot of us was, why were we falling behind when we were not that far behind the other countries in the region? And I guess added to that mix is a population that really took back government and demanded of government good governance. So that is the last portion of the mix that empowers, you have an empowered government supported by the people that in turn empowers the populace to ensure the stability of the future and the stability of the changes that are happening that will lead to increased prosperity for our country.
Mr. President, you just emphasized the support of the people. How did you achieve the support? Because I think for a reform process, particularly if you ask for sacrifices, which any reform process entails, you have to have the support of the people, because the people have to know that short-term sacrifices are compensated by long-term benefits.
Well, not too long ago, let me give a specific example. I was a member of our Congress. There were a group of students of 80 nursing students who visited our Congress, and I asked them, as soon as you pass your courses, you finish the board exams, and you pass, how many of you will stay in the country? And of the 80 students that I was talking to, only 2 of them raised their hands. It seemed that so many of our countrymen were cynical and of the future in particular, that they saw no hope in the country. And suddenly, by, I guess, 2010 was the turning point in a sense. This was an opportunity. The term of my predecessor was ending. There was an opportunity, and we were promising a 80-degree change in governance from that which was experienced. So I think a lot of people will know that I had no plans of running in 2010. We decided in a period of something like 40 days. Our campaign was, in effect, the preparations for our campaign happened in a period of about 3 months, where others were preparing for it for their entire lives. And so a lot of our propaganda material were sourced by the people, and everybody, in effect, was investing that here we will have, in effect, a different candidate, different from that which has been preferred by all of the political machineries, and who promises to really effect change. And this seems to be our chance. And fortunately, we believe that in the 3 years that we have been governing, and I think our countrymen have agreed in our recent midterm elections, they voted a significant majority of our allies into office, that we are on the right track. As a case in point, let me give you just a few examples of what good governance has wrought. We have a Ministry of Public Works and Highways. A lot of our countrymen would say this would be one of the most corrupt agencies. And today, its reputation is that it doesn't bring in just projects on budget. It actually brings in most of its projects under budget and ahead of schedule. And even 3 years ago, not too many Filipinos would have believed that would have been possible. Look at the school building program we have. We are supposed to finish 66,800 classrooms that we lack when we started out by the end of this year. And the budget actually just supports 8,000 classrooms per year. In the 6-year term, we'll just have 48,000. But through various schemes, including public-private partnerships, we will finish this lack. Whereas before, government was content to have, in grade school, 3 shifts for our school children who were going to class in the early evening and would go home in the middle of the evening. So I guess the bottom line is the people were, in a sense, desperate for change. They saw at least a chance of a beginning of change. They threw their lot in with us, and I believe that they are, for the most part, satisfied with what we have achieved and where we are now.
President Aquino, you are working in a parliamentary democracy, and you have a majority. You just won 9 out of 12 seats again for the Senate. How do you, in such a parliamentary democracy, when you have a transformation which is very intensive, requiring a lot of change, how do you integrate the opposition into this process, and how do you avoid, I mean, you need a certain consensus. How do you avoid a too much uh, polarization of the camps?
Well, a lot of the issues that we espouse and that we fight for, we believe are sound, sound in terms of the analysis of the problem and the proposed solutions. We we invite dialogues to thresh out all of the issues. We incorporate the ideas presented by other elements that may not have been in full support of the measures that we would want
So
to
you
perform.
integrate the opposition into the preparation process of.
Yes. One of the more controversial measures we passed is what we call responsible parenthood, which is a reproductive health bill. We are a staunchly Catholic country who does not, and that church does not sanction artificial means of family planning. So we tried to reach out to members of the church. We add amendments to the measure that would make certain provisions of it more palatable to those who were initially totally opposed to it. And at the end of the day, we came up with a product wherein the majority were comfortable with. It got passed into law. So that has been always a process, and I believe I learned it from my parents. The idea of consensus might be harder to achieve, but once achieved, provides the firm foundation for anything you'd want to achieve down the line.
One question. You fought corruption in your country, and corruption is so much built into the genes of a society. What do you consider the single most important step to stamp out corruption in a country?
Well, my predecessor is answering several charges and is presently detained. She is accused of the crime of plunder, and plunder is an unbailable offense in our country. Now, to ensure that that happens, one of the top four promises I had during the campaign when I ran, the fourth was judicial reform. We had a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court who felt that they were above the law, or the law doesn't apply to them. And under our system, such a justice can be impeached. And for the first time, we have impeached sitting Chief Justice of the Supreme Court who underwent the complete process, and we proved wherein he was deficient in following the laws which he was supposed to have faithfully served. So we believe we have sent a message to everybody else who has less than that there is the culture of impunity is over. And I keep emphasizing to the cabinet and especially our Secretary of Justice that the success of our campaign has to be the ability to imprison those who have done wrong for our people. No, it cannot be that do what you want while you're in power and forever after be unaccountable for it. That, I think, is something that our people are really eager to see happen.
When you look at all your achievements, you still have to do with a lot of, with a large pocket of poverty in your country.
Yes.
What will you do in the next years in order specifically to lift out those people of poverty?
Well, you have to deal with the problem today, addressing the problems that were created in the past, and preparing for the future. So how does that translate? Number one, there was a lot of onerous contracts that our predecessor entered into that really made no economic sense, that's really riddled with graft, and we canceled the contracts, and we will go into arbitration for the contracts that were already executed, and we're prepared to go that difficult route instead of continuing that which was wrong. Now, in terms of the current situation, those of our countrymen, we have an estimated 4.4 million families living under the poverty line. And for them, we are investing with a program called, it's called a conditional cash transfer. The primary condition is you keep your children in school. We hope that by the time they graduate the high school level, there will be a marketable skill already that will increase their prospects for advancing in terms of higher paying job opportunities. Now, the third is massive investment in education, not just in putting up the schools, not just in getting more teachers, but actually even having, we call it a roadmap, no, for reform in our state universities and colleges, wherein they have to be more attuned to the needs of the communities that they serve, rather than be ivory towers that have a disconnect with the rest of society. As an example, we had a professor in a university called the Bicol State University, and he was complaining that the government, their institution was conducting innumerable and repetitive studies on rice and corn. The issue is the primary product for this university, or the region where this university was coconut. So it was told all of the studies that were repetitive were irrelevant to the needs of their community. So he studied coconut. And he's the guy who came up with a geotextile material called coco coir, which is used throughout the world presently. And the byproduct of the process of creating coco coir is a replacement for peat moss. So he's now embarking on, and government will be funding, processing sites that will transform the waste materials of coconut into very valuable resources. And that is the focus we have on addressing. And of course, health also is a very important portion. We have enrolled, we started out with 63% of the population enrolled in the National Health Insurance Program. We are now at the 86% level, and the 14% that we're still targeting happens to be the informal settler sector that we're having a little difficulty in identifying and enrolling in the program.
President Tencent, you just listened to your president colleague from the Philippines, and the Philippines has the advantage to be ahead in the reform process. What is your reaction to what President Aquino said?
President Aquino, this is my colleague in the ASEAN framework. In fact, the reform process for the last 30 years time of the presidents and the parents, also you are enjoying the certain degrees of the achievements. But this mind, but enjoyed the tenure with your endeavors, we have noticed the significant improvement, particularly in the judiciary matters, as you discussed earlier. There's such an improvement. Also, this is one of the areas we have to improve in our countries, and also we take the lesson from this, and also the dissemination of the educations in the education sectors, and also this I perceive this is a sharing of the experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Tencent. President Aquino, I would end this first part by again appreciating the hospitality. I have here a symbolic, I brought with me a symbolic Swiss Glock. You know, in Switzerland we hang them around the cows. Now, but they are also the sign of presidency. So, because you can create order. So I would like, as a symbolic gesture of moving from Myanmar to Philippines, I would like to ask President Tencent to hand over this clock to President Aquino.